The lost letter. It was the summer of 1995 when I first saw her Titanic. Not in the flesh, of course, but through the lens of a submersible's camera beamed onto a small monitor in the ship's research lab. I was part of the archival team, cataloging artifacts recovered from the wreck. Most were what you'd expect: porcelain, cups, jewelry, scraps of clothing, but then came the small leather satchel. Inside, wrapped in layers of oilskin and silk, was a folded piece of paper. My hands trembled. After 83 years at the bottom of the ocean, the ink had barely faded. The handwriting was delicate, looping like music captured in script. It was addressed simply, "To my dearest Eleanor." I began to read. "My love, the sea is calm tonight, and the ship glides as though the stars themselves are guiding her. I cannot wait to walk with you again, to hear your laughter in the gardens, to feel your hand in mine. Every mile we sail brings me closer to you. But if by some strange twist of fate this letter should not find you, know this: you were and always will be the great love of my life." I felt my throat tighten. The man who wrote it, Henry Carver, was listed among the passengers who never made it to a lifeboat. Eleanor, I later learned, never married. She had lived her days quietly in the English countryside until her death in 1962. The letter had never reached her. Something about it haunted me. It wasn't just the romance, it was the way he wrote with such certainty, such devotion. In a world where people's words are so often careless, here was a man who knew exactly what his heart wanted to say, and he said it without hesitation. For weeks, I couldn't stop thinking about them, about Henry's hand gripping the pen, about Eleanor perhaps waiting at a station, scanning the crowd for a face that never came. I imagined her folding herself into a life without the man she loved, never knowing he had left her this final gift. And then, unexpectedly, the letter began to change me. I had been living in half measures, too cautious, too distracted by my work to nurture the relationship I'd been in for 3 years. I had always told myself I had time, but Henry's words burned that illusion away. Time is not promised. Love left unspoken is love that can vanish in the dark. That night, I picked up the phone and called Anna. I told her things I had never said aloud, that she mattered more than anything, that if life swept me away tomorrow, I wanted her to know she had been my one great love. There was silence, and then the sound of her crying softly. The letter now rests in a museum display, sealed behind glass. People walk past it every day, admiring the script, reading the brief story beside it. They don't know that for one man in 1912 and for one man in 1995, those words were more than ink on paper. They were a lifeline, voices from the deep. August 12, 1995. We were 3 miles beneath the Atlantic, suspended in a darkness so complete it felt alive. Our submersible Orpheus drifted along the skeletal remains of the Titanic. Outside, the beam of our lights caught the twisted metal, the ghostly railings, the once grand staircase now choked in silt. I was on sonar duty when I first heard it, a faint, rhythmic blip that didn't match our instrument's usual patterns. At first I thought it was an echo, the sound of our own submersible pinging back. But then there was something else, a voice. It was impossible, but the sound in my headphones was distinctly human, muffled, distant, as though coming from a room just beyond a locked door. I froze, pressing the headset tighter against my ears. It was low, almost a whisper, but the tone carried a strange urgency. "Did you hear that?" I asked through the comm. The pilot, Grant, shook his head. "Probably interference. The sea plays tricks down here." But the voice came again, this time more than one. A faint chorus, layered as if dozens of people were speaking at once, overlapping, restless, broken by long silences. I couldn't make out the words, but there was a cadence, like fragments of conversation trapped in time. We tracked the sound to the ship's forward section, just above the grand staircase. The sonar pings distorted there, warping into strange harmonics that raised the hairs on my neck. Grant muttered something about currents or shifting debris, but I knew that wasn't it. Then something happened that silenced even him. Through the static, a single voice cut through, clear, deliberate, "Help us." It was a woman's voice, steady but trembling. I stared at Grant. His knuckles had gone white on the controls. "You heard that?" I said. He didn't answer. For the next hour, we circled the wreck, recording everything. The voices would fade, then return in waves, some pleading, some shouting, some simply murmuring as if in conversation. It was as if the water itself carried their words, a tide of human sound that refused to die. When we finally surfaced, the audio was reviewed by the rest of the crew. Some dismissed it as electromagnetic interference. Others claimed it was whale song, distorted by the depth, but a few sat in silence, listening again and again, their faces pale. Later that night, I played the recording alone in my cabin. In the background hiss, between the indistinct murmurs, I heard something I hadn't noticed before: my own name. It was whispered, almost inaudible, but it was there. I didn't tell anyone. 2 months later, the Orpheus returned to the Titanic. Same route, same sonar sweeps. But the voices, they were gone. Sometimes late at night, I put on the old headphones and play that one recording again. The murmurs rise and fall like waves against the hull, and just before the tape runs out, the woman's voice comes back, clearer than ever. "Not yet. I still don't know what she meant."